Well, hello again, everybody. I'm Dan John from danjohnuniversity.com. This is our podcast. This is podcast number 199. Always reminds me of a story. I one time at a track meet threw 199 feet, 11 inches, and Coach Mon walked up to the to the official and went, "Really?" Just a good memory. Remember, if you have questions, you send them to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I do my best, as I say every week, I do my best to answer each and every one. Today we have some good questions. I got to thank you, gentle listener, because the questions have been very good lately. This first question is from Neil, and a lot of you might think, well, this doesn't apply to me, but kind of sooner or later, it does. So here we go. I have recently accepted a new position at my company, yay for me, he says, that will require me to travel about 75% of the time, which is tough. Make sure your relationships are square at home. I would spend a lot of time thinking about laundry. I think a lot of time about luggage, how you're going to pack. These are, and this is from my own personal experience. That's when I started becoming a one bag traveler. There's lots of great sites out there that talk about traveling light. I would take their advice. The training is simple enough. I am planning to just do calisthenics whenever the hotel gyms are ill-equipped. I would also recommend a glute loop and a mini band. The glute loop takes this much space and the mini band takes this much. And I can do hip thrust clamshells, those monster walks, backward walking. I can do all kinds of things for my lower body. And recently I even started playing around with these like band pull-aparts. Not perfect, but hey, it's better than nothing, as you say here. But his question is this. But I was wondering if you have any advice for someone looking to eat clean while on the road. Before accepting this position, I was eating a caloric deficit, trying to lose some extra adipose tissue, and will now spend long hours in the car. Oh, yeah, okay, you're in a car. I got to tell you, Neil, right there you have a huge advantage over me because I have to fly everywhere. The number of times I've driven to workshops in the state in a year would be one or two. If I have 40 workshops in a year like I did a couple years back, one would be in state where I could drive to. So there's huge advantages for you, but let's get there first. My concern is after a long day of work and the prospect coming home to an empty hotel room will lead me to want to swipe the company card on fried foods and adult beverages. Any advice for staying disciplined with diet while on the road? Well, now you have a car. So if you have a car, you can also pack some extra equipment. But let's just do it this way. We'll break it into two parts. We'll go airplane only travel. Now, when you fly, there's a couple areas I'd focus on. Again, this is going to help you with eating, but make sure you have an eye mask. You have, some kind of noise reducing, either earplugs or phones. I use the Music Cozy. It's an eye mask with a built-in earplugs, stereo earplugs, I also buy those magic pajamas online, and as I've said many times, you can disagree with them, but they prevent bed bugs, so yay. Sleep is going to be big. Sleep, and I'm going to say hydration, and I mean drinking water. Drinking water are big. Those would be your foundational things. I was told, now whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it certainly chimes with my experience, that the first night in a hotel room is always bad. So if you're going from hotel to hotel to hotel, your sleep is going to get impacted a lot. So you're going to have to take the hotel room sleep very seriously. I've heard some interesting things lately. One person said that they always travel with one of their own pillowcases because the pillowcase has your smells on it, and that seems to help. Hey, I don't do that, but it was a pretty simple piece of advice. And a pillowcase, heck, the pillowcase can be used to hold, something, When it comes to food on the road, you have to be a little careful. And I tell you something, when you eat at restaurants every day, you're going to order the salad because, it's salad. But the dressings and the croutons and all the other stuff they throw into restaurant salads, sometimes those calorie numbers are through the roof. When California first started having the calories published, you could hear a collective, when people looked at how much was in some of the salads they were getting at restaurants. I like the idea of kind of just simplifying your meals out. I always order extra vegetables on the road. People who have been with me at workshops, at the RKCs, at the North Carolina workshops, they will see that I go out of my way to order extra vegetables. I think one of the best foods you can eat on the road, and you can disagree with this, but I think fajitas with extra vegetables are amazing. Again, you can disagree with me, but when you look at the amount of meat that's in a fajita, it's usually, it's just fine. But very often, especially if you order extra veggies, which I don't think a lot of places don't even charge you for, you really can get full, and it's a very delicious meal. You know, add your hot sauces. Someone's going to raise your hand. Don't hot sauces have salt? Yeah, well, you're on the road, you're doing your best. And that's why that other level called, I said hydration, but drinking water is so important. There's a new thing out now. I don't remember exactly what it's called. It might be called Borg or something like that, where when you go to like a party, you take a gallon of water, you add those liquid IVs or Vitalites to it, and then you add the amount of alcohol you want to drink that night. And then you kind of mix it up and you drink with it. Now, I'm not saying you should, I don't want you driving down the road with a gallon of, Jack Daniels and some liquid IV. And good luck if you do that. But the idea of having something like that, it doesn't have to be a bottle, it can be, but some kind of container, larger if you can, that maybe you put, there are some electrolytes out now. I think one's called Element, maybe, that it's just a small little powder and you pop it in, has no sugar in it. Something along those lines. I've had people tell me they travel with bigger things, with servings, and this isn't something I would do, but they put their creatine in it, they put their Element in it, some other things, and they drink that all day long. Your mileage may vary, but I mean, if you just do what we used to do, in fact, I got this from Arnold Schwarzenegger in his book, The Education of a Bodybuilder, is you get like a gallon and you squeeze lemon juice in it, and you add just a tiny bit of salt. I'm sure there's better salts out there today, and you drink that throughout the day. So a fairly large container with just a hint of, just a little tiny bit of, I'm sure some of the potassium salts, I'm sure like the Elements and those magic things are even better. You drink that throughout the day, and so you can stay ahead on your water, your hydration. If you got a good night's sleep and you stay ahead on your water, you might make better choices at meals. No matter where I go, whether it's International House of Pancakes or Taco Bell, there are always choices to be made, especially if you can come in there with a good night's sleep and some water. If you can go online and find a fast food place that you frequent. I said Taco Bell because I went online one time and I looked up Taco Bell, and if you choose wisely on the menu, you can do pretty well. It's going to have to be that kind of thing. So yeah, obviously it's going to be vegetables, protein, water, obviously, but try to do your best to order extra veggies on the side. Any place that has they'll have entrees here, and then they'll have like side orders. I always look at the side orders to see if I can put together a meal too. I have eaten at places, and I'm not trying to be that guy where I order 2 or 3 like side order appetizer-y things to get myself kind of satiated, and then I re-look at the menu and I'm like, instead of ordering, I don't know, spaghetti mixed with ravioli, mixed with macaroni and cheese, mixed with pancakes, I can then choose something a little bit more mature, more big kid food. There are issues with that. Now, there's one other thing. So that's airplane travel. Since you're traveling with your car, I mean, I would strongly recommend you get a cooler. I think there are certain vegetables that travel well. I know that sliced zucchini travels well. Carrots travel well. Peppers travel very well. Onions, and I would do yourself a favor and try to have everything pre-sliced, pre-cut. Personally, I would use Pyrex because I think that holds better. If you have Pyrex containers inside of a cooler, they're not going to get as wet. They're not going to get as mushy. This is my experience. You could probably bring something like my overnight oats on the road. That's where I take vanilla protein powder, cinnamon, I put seeds in, and then I put oatmeal. You stir the dry ingredients up, you add water to it, and you let it sit overnight, and it's really quite good. I used to spend a lot more time on it, doing all kinds of extra stuff, but that little combination by itself is all you really need, in my experience. If you do pull over and you got a chance, I don't know of too many supermarkets now that don't have like salmon lox, which is just an outstanding. I mean, if you have, if you bring back lox to your room, okay, you gotta be careful, might stink up the room, but lox back to your room and you have, your little buffet of, your instant oats and your overnight oats and your veggies, that's a pretty good meal. And, drink your water. The one thing I would think about now, if you're going to drink alcohol on the road, and I'm not going to yay or nay on that. One of the things I would recommend is I would start carrying packets of Crystal Light with you. And one of the things I learned from Low Carb Chris, this would be 22, 23 years ago, maybe 24 years ago. She would mix Crystal Light, lemon flavored Crystal Light, with a variety of alcoholic drinks and make them very tall with, just a little bit of, like a shot of tequila in lemon Crystal Light. She called it a low carburita. And there's all kinds of little drinks you can make. And I would, if you're going to drink adult beverages, what I'm trying to get across is lots of volume, a little bit of alcohol. You don't mention coffee, but one of the things I do find, and if you're driving, I would buy myself a little hot pot, an electric kettle is what they call it in Europe. It boils water. You can make oatmeal don't ever put it in the pot, but with the hot water, you can make oatmeal. You can make coffee. I always travel with Folgers minis, but if in your case, I'd have crystals. I would take a variety of teas and especially some herbal teas for a night to, just give yourself something to drink while you're maybe doing some night work or watching TV. Drinking an herbal tea is probably a better choice than Jack Daniels on the road. I hope that helped. I like this question. Staying disciplined on the road, as you ask here, is all about preparation. In fact, I got to tell you, even as a coach, I think discipline is just another word for preparation. That's pretty good. That's not a bad statement. Discipline is just another word for preparation. It's not bad. All right, hope that helped. We have a question from Anthony. And my wife, 50 years old, and I, 46 years old, have been doing your Easy Strength program for fat loss for her for a while now and really enjoying it. Although she hasn't been training for months now because of knee issues, to not make it worse, which she was finally able to see a specialist about, who confirmed she has a meniscus tear. That's tough. It's gotten a lot better with rest, even before seeing the specialist, and got the okay from the specialist to start training again. Do you have any suggestions for her as she slowly works her way back into doing your Easy Strength for Fat Loss program? Well, I got to tell you, Anthony, it's kind of nice to hear. It doesn't look like she's going to need surgery and she'll be able to work around it. So just remember, there's basically 5 exercises in Easy Strength. I don't see a problem with the vertical pressing with her. I don't see a problem with any kind of vertical pulling, including lat pull downs or whatever's appropriate for her, banded pull-ups. Now, on the deadlift variations, we might have to have a conversation. You might need to practice, like even have a 2 or 3 week, Pavel's book, Power to the People, has a whole bunch of deadlift variations, but I'm sure you could just type in deadlift variation. So, I mean, there's the duck stance, knees, with the heels are together. There's a wide grip one. There's deficit deadlifts. There's snatch grip deadlifts. Every variation of hand movement deadlifts you can think of. Thick bar deadlifts. And of course, the ones I like, the box or rack deadlifts. Try to find deadlifts that put no stress on her knees at all. I'm guessing that the higher rack deadlifts or trap bar deadlifts will be the answer. So far, we're 3 for 3. Ab wheels, I probably not recommend because, and this is my experience with seniors. When you get them on the ground, they can do 6-point rocks, but the ab wheel is hard. So doing the hanging bent knee leg raise. So she's going to bring her knees to her chest, probably the ab exercise I recommend. And then since she's doing for fat loss, maybe that's it. Just have her do those 4 exercises. As long as she can walk, bicycle, or cross-country ski, or whatever exercise she can to do at the end of that. Let's just stick with those basic 4 because I want you to experiment around with those deadlift variations until you find the one that seems to make her not hurt. The reason I'm saying this about the fat loss thing is that in my one-on-one experience with some people who have had knee injuries, of course, it's one of those. It's a snowball going down a mountain. You tweak your knee, stops your movement. This movement, since you're not moving as much and you maybe eat more comfort foods, you put on some body weight. You try to exercise, but that extra body weight hurts the knee more. That makes you not want to work out, which makes you seek more, and you just keep, kind of rolling down that snowball effect. I would say that, if we can just get her to do those 4 exercises 3 to 5 times a week and then do whatever cardiovascular work she wants to do. If she can walk, that is magnificent. Walking is great for the spine, and I'm sure it's one of the best things she could do. I mean, it's pretty low impact. Make sure she walks smoothly. But my experience with my one-on-one clients with knee injuries is very often what we're trying to do is get them earlier on that snowball rolling down the mountain problem. And that's just my experience. It's better to have a little bit of workout and some walking as we go through the rehab process to feel good, to not add more fat, adipose tissue, or more pain, and just keep kind of going at it. I would like her to somehow monitor her pain levels, her cortisol levels, and I'm kind of lucky. I get red marks on my face when I'm dealing with pain. The doctor is very good about it. Dr. Brunetti first mentioned it, and then Dr. Williams said, oh, there's no question about that. For me, I'm pretty lucky. I can look in the mirror and see when my cortisol levels are rising up because I get these kind of the broken blood vessels or just this blotchiness even down on this side. So have her monitor her pain levels. If she finds herself getting stressed, in pain, we want an early intervention on that and not let that snowball keep going. I hope that helps. Pretty simple advice, but if I could get everybody I know to press, pull, deadlift, hanging, bent knee, leg raise, and go for a walk, the world would be a better place, in my humble opinion. Thank you. Good question. Amit asked this question. How do you hit goals when life only allows you to do park bench workouts? The late Archbishop George Niederauer had a famous thing called park bench prayers versus bus bench prayers. A bench is a bench is a bench. If it's in a park, you don't expect anything out of it. But if it's at a bus stop, you expect that bus to come. So park bench workouts are when you train 2, 3, 5 days a week. You go for walks, you eat well, with no expectations. A bus bench workout would be the 12-week Soviet squat program or whatever. At the end of those 12 weeks, if you don't improve, you go to the Soviet Union, you punch every Soviet in the face, you know. I said that to Chris Schugert when I did the V diet. If after 28 days of 6 protein shakes a day and nothing else, if I didn't make progress, I was going to fly to wherever he is and punch him in the mouth. Chris was safe. It worked very well. So that's his intro, but I want to make sure I had clarity on that for you, gentle listener. I'm about 15 pounds away from hitting a body weight strict press, which has been a goal of mine for years. These last 15 are a grind. I'm glad you asked this question because I actually think a park bench program will help you with your press as much as a strict, numbers and percents program, because presses, to me anyway, are like deadlifts and the Olympic lifts. Sometimes everything just kind of falls in place and your press goes up. My lifetime best on the clean and press is 300. And all I did that day was I just kept adding plates until I said, I'm only 15 pounds from my goal, and put it on. And it was actually easier than the weights before, which was interesting. I'm not a natural presser. I have to press 2 to 3 times a week in order to drive progress. And if I am away from a barbell from a week or more, it often takes me a month or more to regain my strength levels. Okay, just to let you know, Amit, that is what everybody with the military press, I'm sure there's people who can military press once a year and not lose anything, because there's always an outlier. But most of us need to press all the time to keep our press up. In the same way, I have to front squat if I want to keep my front squat up. I feel like I could achieve my goals with 3 to 5 months of focused, uninterrupted bust bench training. Unfortunately, these days, it seems that every 4 to 6 weeks, life gets in the way. Travel, work, COVID. Yeah, very good. Do you have any suggestions, tips, strategies for someone like me? I feel like I'm always taking 2 steps forward, then 2 steps back. Well, and that's what these are the kind of questions I like the most, Emmett, because this is real. This is what happens to all of us. In this fairy world of the internet, social media, where everybody is, just always has everything ratcheted in. Well, that's not me, man. Things happen, the best laid plans, So I appreciate that. One of the things I would suggest you do, there's a couple things, but I would like you to start thinking this. Because the press is your goal, I would like you to press at the start of every workout you do. But hear me out. I want you to get your press and do your presses and make that kind of just a check-in, okay? Do whatever else you can do that day, but the last thing you do every workout is press. So the workout's gonna look a little bit like this. You're gonna press coming in, you're gonna press coming out. It's an older technique. You used to see it in the early 1960s a lot when people were trying to improve their press. I had some kind of, I hate calling them old timers because I'm older than they are, when they told me this, but I had people tell me that this was the way to increase your military press. So as you walk into the gym or your home gym, hopefully you'll have things set up. If you clean, very lightweight, you clean it, you get some presses in. This is a great time to do like 8s or something like that, sets of 8, and then go do the rest of your workout, your pull workout, your squat, your deadlift, or whatever you have time for. And then at the end of that, do an additional press workout. If you're only training 2 to 3 times a week, you're doing 2 press outs each workout. So in my magical world of how things go, you got 6 workouts in a week. It's not true, but you'll have the benefits of it. The other thing too is you'll come into that second press workout a little tired, a little diminished. And so little things like how you lock up your body, how you increase your tension, they're all going to carry over and help you with your press. I wouldn't mind seeing you do something like 8s at the beginning of the workout, 5 8s, those kind of numbers, a little bit higher rep. And at the end of the workout, triples and singles, and don't go to max every single workout, because you're trying to get a certain goal, but try to get yourself to the point that, like, let's just say you weigh 200 pounds, and if it's kilos or whatever, it doesn't matter, I guess. And let's just say you have the 160 load, which, you can do for 3. Good. What I want you to do is practice feeling 160 for 3 reps to feel easier and easier and easier. And of course, that becomes the easy strength secret, is all we're doing is we're just greasing that groove with that lift. And when it's time to go, it's time to go. When people have used easy strength to pass like the Beast Challenge, one of the things, the almost universally, the feedback is how boring the workouts are, because 5 days a week, the Beast Challenge is a pistol, a pull-up, and a press. So 5 days a week, you do a pistol, a pull-up, and a press. And I like the idea of doing a pistol on two of the days, 1, 2, a pistol, a pull-up, a press, a pistol, a pull-up, a press. So you can practice, getting yourself ready for the performance of passing the test. On a program like this, the press will get I hate to call it boring, but I think you know what I mean. You get that sense of, even if you love the exercise, here we go again. But I think you'll like it. So press coming into every workout and leaving every workout. Focus on higher reps in the beginning, lower reps at the end. And then and if that's all you have time for at the gym is to press, walk out and take care of business. Right now, it's funny, their question is, the timing on this is very good. Right now, Mike Brown and I are doing basically all press workouts Monday and Friday, for all military press workouts Monday and Friday for a while. Just a small little experiment. We're really upping the volume, we're trying to up volume and up intensity at the same time with just the press. Just to experiment with things. And I got to tell you, and I was told this as a kid, if all you did was the military press, you'd have a pretty good program. And I'm starting to become even more convinced of it now that I'm doing it. I mean, I feel very good doing it, and I'm doing the military press mixed with hanging bent knee leg raises, and I tell you, my shoulders feel good, and I think my posture looks better, and I'm the prettiest boy on the block, or whatever. Hey, thanks. Good question. I hope that helps. Faisal asks us a question. I have a solid background in training, Canadian football, Olympic lifting, power building, kettlebells, and I've always struggled with program ADD and end up switching programs 2 weeks in. Well, of course you do. Everyone does that, okay? I'm an avid mountain biker, and after a long, cold Canadian winter and spring, mud season, of riding indoors and training 3 times a week in a gym, doing your 5 fundamental movements, I'm hoping to spend more time outdoors on the bike and focus on kettlebells outdoors as my strength work. I love it. I have 253s and 170, as well as access to a local park with a pull-up bar. How would you set up a twice weekly program to get me through the summer and stick with it? Okay, one nice thing about this is my friend James at bikejames.com has already done the big lifting for me. Now he's pushing more and more isometrics for his mountain bike racers, but I love his original programs. First off, for mobility work, he argued that my little exercise called the windmill stick, and you'll find the windmill stick, you'll find it here on my YouTube account, and I think we demonstrated over at danjohnuniversity.com. But the windmill stick, he believes, is really helpful for you bicyclists on helping yourself navigate turns. Now, a lot of people disagree with him on that. There was a big controversy about it, but I think he was right. And I mean, it's a pretty simple exercise, and it takes, a minute? I mean, it's pretty cheap. I would recommend for you a very basic hardstyle kettlebell program. 2-hand swing, so both hands on the bell swing, goblet squats, and Turkish get-ups. Now, the reason I say that is that's what Bike James told me works for bicyclists. So you've been doing the push, the pull, the hinge, the squat, the loaded carries. You've set your system up. Now, I would suggest, now how many days a week did you ask? Twice a program. So this will be a little odd, but What I would kind of recommend to you is you come into every workout doing, and I would have you do, and I like Pat Flynn's idea of doing minutes. So with no load, do 5 minutes of Turkish get-ups, okay, 5 minutes. And then I would have you do swings, and let's keep the reps at 15, followed by goblet squats, 15-1, 15-1, 15-1. I would play around with maybe 150 to 300 swings on the workouts. 300 swings is a lot of swings. Yes, it's a lot, but it's only 20 rounds. It's 10 rounds or 20 rounds of this exercise. But since that's all I'm going to have you do, I'm not that concerned about the high reps. If you do 10 rounds, it's 10 squats. If you do 20 rounds, it's 20 squats, and that's not bad. If you're tired, put the bell down, rest, pick up, and go again. One of the things I'd like you to do, and I'll be talking about this later, is I would like you to have a timer and see how long the workouts take you. Now, I do want you to condense your time. That's called density, okay? Same work, less time. Squeeze that down. But I don't, after maybe the third or fourth time you squeeze the number down, I want you to stop, because I still want you to keep all your energy systems ready for the bicycle. I don't want you to win the gym necessarily right now. One quick idea that just kind of came to my head, if you're training twice a week, the farthest workout away from your serious bike riding day, do 20 rounds of the 15-1, okay? On the day that's closer to your serious bike riding, do 10 rounds, 20, 10 minutes, 20 rounds, 20, however long it takes. So 20, 10, 20, 10, 20, 10, twice a week. Time it, get a sense of how long it takes, and then just try to stay in that wiggle room. I don't know how long it's going to take. And then after that 20-10, I wouldn't mind you doing some, very few, but some, you got the 53s. That might be a little heavy for our needs. But if you can do Turkish get-ups with the 53, with a 53, great. If not, don't worry about it. Now, with that pull-up bar, all I want you to do this time of the year is hang. I don't mind all your qualities and all the other areas coming down a little bit, because we want you to have fun on the bike. You're right. I don't know how many times a week. I don't know how many times a week you ride your bike, but I'm guessing the weekend, Saturday, Sunday is the most important. So I want you feeling great on the weekends. So Monday or Tuesday would be that harder, longer day. And if you can do the Turkish get-ups with the 53, do them that day. The lighter day, Wednesday, Thursday-ish, somewhere around there. And on that day, just do 5 minutes of unweighted Turkish get-ups before, 5 minutes of unweighted Turkish get-ups after. Shake it out, hang from the bar some, and then just get yourself ready. Ride your bike, have some fun. Don't worry, it'll be very easy in the fall, winter, spring for you to catch up on all those strength qualities you're gapping. I just want you to stay kind of in shape, happy, ready to go, because the most important thing is always keep enjoying the thing that you enjoy the most. Had an interesting conversation with my elite discus thrower, must have been 3 days ago. The haze in the barn, you're going to the nationals. You don't have to prove anything to anybody in the weight room. You got to prove it in the discus ring. And so for right now, Fossil, you don't have to prove anything to me in the weight room. I just want to see you enjoy your bike. I hope that helps. For those of you who aren't mountain bikers, listen to the conversation. If you have a sport or thing you do, your focus should be on that. That's not earth-shaking. It's just common sense. But as we always joke in my other field, the least common thing is common sense. All right. Thank you. Very good question. Question from Dan. Beautiful name. First question. Can you recommend your most basic push regressions for somebody with bad shoulders. I don't have an injury per se, but every push variation I try causes pain in my shoulder. Okay, I want you to get that looked at. Overhead presses, dumbbell, kettlebell, and sandbags, dumbbell, bench press, push-ups, and even Turkish get-ups. Well, you've kind of run out of options for me there, my good friend. I have tried all these with light weights with proper form, shoulders back and down, and it still aggravates me. For context, I'm a man in my 40s who works at a computer all day. I stand often at work and try to move around a lot. I have also tried hanging over an extended period of time, and it hasn't helped. What push variations do you recommend that have the lowest risk for shoulder problems? The one option, and I don't know if you said it, but in this, okay, first off, I think you need to see a medical professional on this. If your shoulders are that bad that hanging doesn't help and every lift hurts, Dan, you've really put me in a corner. I don't have many things left, except for one. How are things with single kettlebell presses? And the reason I say that is very often people don't necessarily, okay, there are shoulder issues that you get from throwing. Like, you blow your rotator cuff right off, or you blow your elbow, you get the Tommy John surgery, not related. And they repair it, they put it back on, they repair it, they put it back on, and yay for me, we know what the problem is. But sometimes when people have shoulder issues, pressing, I'm guessing, and I almost feel like I'm doing medical advice, but I'm trying not to, is that if you spend your whole day like this and you press, it's not a shoulder issue. It's a kind of a thoracic mobility up, it's a Hunchback of Notre Dame issue. You've got the Cobra look. So sometimes when people just press with a single hand, it allows this whole area, instead of being kind of driven in by the double locked in load, it allows some open, you're allowed to open up a little bit here and get your lifts in. So the only thing I'm going to tell you is first I'm going to tell you, I do want you to see somebody about this. I got a good PT, Mike does a great job with me. If I was to come into him with a shoulder issue, I could almost tell you the exercise. He would tell me to hang. He'd tell me to do the touchdowns, the slides. I know that. And to the point that when I get those certain crunches in the shoulders, I slide back to slides almost immediately. It could be something that easy. It could be you have some serious issue. Let's find out. The next step I'd like you to think about, though, is the one-arm press family. And if you're going to do it, I would like you to use kettlebells because of the one thing I like the best about the kettlebell press. You start with your thumb and these fingers on your pec. You try to make sure your elbow is driven into your side, into your ribs. And as you press, there's that little J-ish movement in the press that for a lot of beat up guys, and I'm going to put myself into that category, really seemed to help me overcome some of my, I threw the discus, 51 years, that was a long time. It was Highland Games, Olympic lifting. My shoulders are pretty, but the kettlebell press really seemed to help me. So if it helps you, win, okay? Win. I'm to the point now that I can barbell press again with no pain. And I think it was because of Mike, my PT, and because of my my kettlebell pressing. Oh, and the hanging. But it's interesting because of the three things, you don't see Mike, but the other two, maybe you've already done. So I might be out of answers. We have a second question from you, okay? I am reading and enjoying your Easy Strength Omni book. I want to read more books. Hey, me too. Any recommendation for easy reading? Basically, what strategies do you recommend for reading more? For context, I have a demanding job and enjoy spending time with my family. So time can be tight, and energy and mental capacity is fleeting. Before you suggest the morning, I try to knock out my exercise then. Yeah, I'm going to give you some advice I got from an entertainer by the name of Steve Allen. I took his advice. When I got back from the Middle East, I was broken. I had lost 40 pounds in 2 weeks to a parasite. I hurt my back picking up a typewriter. I was in. So what I decided to do was a whole body tune-up, and so I started on a Great Books program. Now I'm sure you can probably type in line, Great Books, 15 minutes a day. And the nice thing about there's a site called openculture.com where they have a lot of the books, of the great books, and you can read them right online. And it got me thinking then, like for example, when people ask me about, I want to read sacred scripture. And I said, well, what did you do? She goes, well, I went to Genesis and I started with in the beginning. I'm always like, oh man, that is going to be rough. So I usually say like, well, why don't you read, just Genesis chapter 4, Cain and Abel. Why don't you read Psalm 23? Why don't you read, and I give them these bite-sized things. And then after about 4 or 5 recommendations from Hebrew scriptures, I slide over to Christian scriptures, Old Testament, New Testament. And I say, let's read the Gospel of Luke or the Gospel of Mark. And just so, maybe 5 or 6 smaller bites and then one full book. And then by the time they get to them, then all these other questions like, okay, where do I go from here? What do I got to do? Whatever. And it's a fascinating, fascinating way to get people to read sacred scripture. If you're going to do something bite-sized like this, I would like you to stay away from things like murder mysteries at first. Now, I love murder mysteries, as most people know. What I would recommend is, and I won't be able to share it with you, but online there is a site that has the best short stories. It's a compilation of Marquez is in there. O. Henry has stories in there. Hemingway has stories in there. And they're all short stories. What I would want you to do is take my advice for how to get into sacred scripture by starting with short stories. The nice thing about short stories, they're bite-sized. They have a quick start, a quick finish. I don't remember who wrote it, but there's the one called The Lady or the Tiger. And I had read that as a child, and I found it again, and it was great. In my bedroom, I have a couple of Irish short stories. They were given to my friend Mike Warren Brown for Christmas and birthday presents. Edna O'Brien, she really has a nice compilation. You can certainly find the short stories of Hemingway. I think that what you'd want to do is start with short stories. Now, I'm not treating you like a child. I'm just saying I had the same issues. Another thing there is online, there's a site that has the poem of the day. And I think the place that has the poem of the day also has the short stories. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I go to Literary Hub every day, and I'm sure you might be able to find that there. There might even be at a bookstore, the great short stories. The reason I think you'll like short stories is that some short stories are, 3 or 4 minute. Well, Hemingway's great line: "For sale, baby shoes, never used." That's 6 words. That's pretty good. Whether that's a poem or a short story, I don't know. But man, you could spend some time thinking about that. So some short stories are, 4 or 5 minute reads, and some are 12, 15 minute reads. Once a short story, has, 8 chapters, I usually go, come on now. James Thomas, professor that was at the University of Utah, published a book called Sudden Fiction, and I took his course, which I loved. And we had rules that every story had to be, I think it was at the most you could have was 2 pages, but he always told me to try to just have 1-page stories. And in that one page, it tries to tell a whole universe in one page. So for me, and if you're trying to get yourself back into the habit of reading, start with some poetry. Some poets, William Carlos Williams has poems that, you can read, and, everything depends on a white wheelbarrow, filled with rain. A red wheelbarrow? Okay. There's just, you can read a poem in seconds and take the rest of your life to understand it. Short stories can be the same. One of my favorite things when you're watching someone read a short story, this is my journal, but when someone reads a short story, you can almost see it in real time, like on a plane. A minute or so later. And that to me is the best kind of story. Once you've had some short stories under your belt, one of the things I'd recommend is go back to that author that seemed to speak to you and then read some of their longer works. I, of course, like epics. My first published work, which is, by the way, it's right here, my first published work, Conservation of Detail, A New Look at the Beowulf Poet, Daniel John. They used to send those to you when you got something published. I love Beowulf. I love The Sword in the Stone. I love Skippy Dies, which I thought was an amazing book. I love the Epic of Gilgamesh. I like epics. That's what I liked about the Harry Potter series. It was an epic unfolding in front of you. But get those bite-sized in before you tackle the epics. And when I'm reading an epic, I almost always have a murder mystery with me, because sometimes when you're reading an epic, it is the brothers Karamazov. You need a little bit of a refresher afterwards. My friend Mike Brown can read these books straight through, and God bless him. After you enjoyed the short stories, some of those books by like the Three Musketeers and the Count of Monte Cristo, those longer compilations. Dickens writes this way. Now Sherlock Holmes might be fun because Conan Doyle does both shorter stories, and those longer ones. It would be a lot of fun. So I hope that helped. I don't know. Enjoy. Get back to me. Tell me what you think. I got a question from Jordan. I was wondering, what do you think of Vince Gironda's style of training? Always was a big fan. Remember, Vince wrote for Iron Man magazine my entire youth. He's the one who convinced me to do the desiccated liver brewer's yeast experiment, which let's just say you wouldn't want to spot me when I was squatting. I've read some of his work, and it's interesting. Mostly his 8x8 plan. Boy, if you want to do hypertrophy, 8x8 is a pretty good way to go. Seems unconventional and poor for building strength, right? Because he was a bodybuilder. But wanted to hear your thoughts on his bodybuilding mass gaining program. I was considering using it 3 times a week, full body plan. Also interested to what's the best book you've read on training and the best book you've read for pleasure. Okay. I loved his book, Unleashing the Wild Physique, which I loaned out and have never seen again. He does have that 8x8 program in there. I know you can go online. He's very popular in some of those older. It's funny, when you go to the site, the one I'm thinking of is still up, but it has that 2002 look to it. Kind of like my first blogs or whatever we call sites, It's got that look to it, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It's still quite good. Very good, in fact. He didn't like squats. He didn't like a lot of things we would consider just kind of standard now. I never could do a sissy squat, and I don't want to hear that I did them right or wrong. They just ripped my patella tendons to death, and don't tell me I did them wrong. Hack squats, I like. Of course, I also agree with what Tom Platz says. It's got to be heavy weights and high reps, to make things work. I like his work. Like he would have these little points that people just don't do. Like one of his big beliefs that when you were doing pull-ups, you were always to hold it here for 2 seconds, because he argued that the nervous system in this area needed time to figure out what you're trying to do. I thought that was interesting, his idea of, how you work triceps, biceps, shoulders, lats. I think he was way ahead of his time. Now, he called the 8x8 the honest workout. And honestly, if you can do the 8x8, I want to say you had 10 to 12 exercises, 64 reps on 10 exercises 3 days a week. I don't know if this is going to be shocking to hear this, gentle listener, but that's a lot of volume. But the way you get hypertrophy is volume. It is true, you can look really good just doing heavy weights. If you look at the lighter classes in Olympic lifting, if you look at elite male gymnasts, if you look at elite male wrestlers, elite male wrestlers, they train with body weight, somebody else's body weight. When people tell me that they're training for a sport with just body weight, I'm always like, well, just go wrestle. You can double your. These guys all look pretty good, and none of them nowadays anyway do a lot of high reps in the weight room. When I was young, wrestlers did do a lot of high reps, and God bless them. But my friends who did that all really struggled with little things like stairs and getting up and getting down off a chair, because those high reps also come with a price tag if you're also doing a combat sport. So yeah, I'm a big fan. His nutritional ideas, he really pushes taking a lot of supplements. A lot of supplements. If you were to go to a supplement store with his list, you're going to need a second job. There's a lot. Some of the stuff he told people to take, I want to say things like RNA or something like that. But I did like it when he pushed the more natural stuff. He really did push eggs. His one thing where you eat, is it 36 eggs a day? Eat 36 eggs a day for a couple of weeks, and then get back to me and talk to me about protein. That's a lot. I think it's 36. I could be wrong. But yeah, his eggs, he really pushed half and half. Certainly, he has that one thing was just his one diet is called the meat and eggs diet, and I loved it. He had an article in Iron Man when I was young. I was probably 20, and someone had a question about the meat and eggs diet, and he wrote down breakfast, meat, eggs; lunch, meat, eggs; dinner, meat, eggs; snacks, meat, eggs. I just thought that was funny. But yeah, I've always been a big fan of him. I understand he was kind of every gym owner I know was a little bit out there, but he was way out there. He had kind of a mean streak, but I tell you, he was right a lot, and he still should be more respected, I think, than what he's given credit for. His stance on drugs was very clear. It was against him. Whether that was, what he wrote, or whether that was just something that he believed in, I respect that. And if you're going to go the drug-free way, I would probably go down his road versus, some of the other people. All right. Good question. Well, there you go. Remember, if you have questions, podcast at danjohnuniversity.com. I love doing this. I hope it helps you. And each and every week I sit down, and until next week, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you very much.